Okay, we got our microphone on. Just wanted to double check everything as we get going with episode show number 8 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We're going to talk Jaguars, even Pete Rose today. North Florida Entertainment. The Jaguars have a new general manager. As you know, we've been talking about that in the episodes of number 7. This is episode show number 8. The general manager, I've heard him speak a few times. He's using a lot of power words. Seems like a real intelligent guy. And he's from the Les Snead tree. It's interesting. The things I've heard, during his press conference, James Gladstone, now the new general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 34 years of age, talks about Les Snead, the GM of the LA Rams. How many times have we mentioned Les Snead in the last two and a half months here on our podcast? Coffee boy, the coffee is great. I know we've got, Rick Springfield. JC says Rick Springfield still looks like he's 30 years old. Man, that hit Jesse's girl. That was back from the 80s, JC. Man, that's been a long time. If he still looks 30, we got to find the fountain of youth, right? But I do want to talk about Pete Rose, the Jaguars. Shad Khan's got a new GM, Shad and Tony Khan. Shad Khan is 74 years old now. And I think he's going to try to more or less start filtering Tony Khan in. But make no mistake about it, the owner, Shad Khan. Tony Baselli, former Jacksonville Jaguars left tackle and Hall of Fame player for the Jacksonville Jaguars, is now the executive vice president of football operations. Owners, Shad Khan, Tony Khan. Mark Lamping is Shad's right-hand man on the business side. The general manager now is James Gladstone. But maybe if Gladstone was to become a first-time general manager like he is, maybe it's a good thing he's got a Hall of Famer to consult with, who certainly is senior, a few years older than him, obviously. And the coach, Liam Cohen, wow, Liam's got to feel a little older now. He's 39, but the GM's 34. Let's talk about Pete Rose for a minute. I've got that up on the screen. Pete Rose, 4,256 hits, the all-time baseball hit king. Now, the reason why I brought up Pete Rose today, it's a good topic. It's a very debatable topic. So, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? There's a lot of fans that say, yeah, he should have a long time ago. Then there's some fans that say he never should be in the Hall of Fame. It looks like he's going to get into the Hall of Fame eventually, posthumously, meaning Pete passed away. It's been a few months since Pete passed away. So he officially passed away, I believe, in 2024, just a few months ago. And I was sad over it. My youngest brother was very sad about it because he was a huge Pete Rose fan. My youngest brother, that is. I will say this. What I've heard in the last few hours is that the president of the United States, President Donald Trump, and I don't like to get too political on these podcasts. We will if we have to, or we will occasionally. But Donald Trump, I believe President Donald Trump has been quoted, President Donald J. Trump has been quoted as saying, it looks like he possibly, or probably, I think the word was probably. I think the word is probably, and I think he will pardon Pete Rose. Now, what does that mean for Major League Baseball? Does that mean they're going to change enough minds to vote Pete in? Posthumously, I know Pete had a son, Pete Rose Jr., who played minor league baseball predominantly. I saw him play in Columbus, Georgia. I think I went to one of those games. Was it the Columbus Red Sticks? They had a couple of different names, but Petey, as Pete Rose Sr. used to call him, Pete Rose Jr., played to a pretty good high level of minor league baseball. He may have made an appearance in the major leagues too. I'll have to do more research on Petey Rose Jr., and I'm sure he would be, if there's ever an induction ceremony of Pete Rose, the hit king, he would be there. I'm sure would be the one, or some of his family members would be there. Other family members accepting the honor, in certainly in lieu of his Pete Rose Sr. have already passed away. And it's sad that, however you feel about it, give me your opinion in the comments. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Should he have already been in long ago? Should he go in now? Should he not go in? Should the family be mad because Pete Rose could get in after he passed away? There's a lot of opinions with Pete Rose. But what I've got on my screen right now, you can never take that away from one Pete Rose. Pete Rose, 4,256 hits, the baseball hit king. I met Pete Rose. He was a tough guy. I interviewed Pete Rose back in the 80s when he was a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. And I remember that weekend up in Atlanta, I interviewed Pete Rose, Phil Niekro. Mike Schmidt turned me down. Mike Schmidt was actually eating dinner. I think he was having a couple of hot dogs or sausage dogs. So he was basically kind of having dinner in the clubhouse. I was in the clubhouse of the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. Phil Niekro is probably the nicest guy I ever met that I interviewed. And yes, JC, I did interview the legendary Pete Rose back in the early 1980s when I was a young sports reporter for WJAX radio here in Jacksonville, Florida. The radio career kind of took off from there. We're doing Jay Don. And the reason why we're bringing him up here is we've got reports that United States President Donald J. Trump probably will be somehow giving Pete Rose posthumously a pardon. Does this mean Pete will get in the Hall of Fame? Will he get in? Will he won't? Will he still not get in? I guess that's up to Major League Baseball, right? What's your opinion on Pete Rose getting in the Hall of Fame, not getting in the Hall of Fame? His family may be mad because Pete never got in, but he could get in after he passed away. I would tend to think the family would accept the acknowledgement because this is, Pete Rose wanted to get in the Hall of Fame very much, I believe. So give me your opinion. Pete Rose, will he get in the Hall of Fame? Have you heard about Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he will pardon Pete Rose, for obviously the gambling that it was said and finally admitted to that Pete Rose had gambled on baseball. And if Pete ever gambled on his own team, I think he was gambling on them to win. I don't think that was ever proven that Pete bet on his own team. But if he did, I'm sure he was betting on his own team. The other guy that hasn't gotten in the Hall of Fame was a great player, Shoeless Joe Jackson, but he was tied up in a little bit of a different controversy. He was part of the White Sox, or they then called him the Black Sox, saying that they had actually, I don't know the whole story, but I've seen films on it. Shoeless Joe Jackson is another guy, passed away in 1951, nicknamed Shoeless Joe. Shoeless Joe Jackson was an outfielder, an American outfielder who played Major League Baseball in the early 20th century. Although his .356 career batting average is the fourth highest in the history of Major League Baseball, he is often remembered for his association with the Black Sox scandal in which members of the 1919 Chicago White Sox participated in a conspiracy, it is believed, to fix the World Series. Now, Pete Rose never did that. He played he was on some championship teams. You know, they won, the Cincinnati Reds won the World Series, obviously back in the 1970s, a couple of times at least, right? I remember they beat the Red Sox. The shoeless Joe Jackson scandal's a little bit different. And so, give me your opinion. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Should he have been in the Hall of Fame years ago? Should he not be in the Hall of Fame? Give me your opinion in the comments here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast, talking a little bit of Pete Rose. We talk about other things other than the Jaguars, but of course, the Jaguars are our main topic and focus on this podcast with the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Semi-pro football, I see the Florida Jaguars with a Z on the end defeated the Gainesville Ducks. They blew them out of the water. I talked to him, sir, they call him. His nickname's him, sir. He gave me a score this morning. Semi-pro football said the Jaguars with a Z on the end. Florida Jaguars beat the Gainesville Ducks 47-0. That's in EAFL football. And we do cover semi-pro football on the website. Check out our website. We cover the Jaguars, North Florida entertainment, Jacksonville weather, and a lot of things going on in North Florida. Give me your opinion on Pete Rose. You see on the screen, Pete Rose, 4,256 hits, the baseball all-time hit king. Now, then I brought up shoeless Joe Jackson. I think it's a good comparison because if he was really part of fixing a World Series, no, he should not be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose betting on baseball is the reason why he didn't get in the Hall of Fame. However, I don't think Pete ever fixed a game or bet against his team. That is my feeling. And I think he was primarily betting on other games. But does it stain the game? Yes. Is the NFL getting involved with gambling? We all know about Calvin Ridley, and he got suspended from the league for like over a year. Then he signed with it or got traded, and the Jaguars had him for 1 year. Now he signed a $50 million contract with the Tennessee Titans. I can guarantee you one thing. Pete Rose never saw $50 million in his career. I think when he signed as a free agent with the Philadelphia Phillies, I think it was a six-figure deal worth over $100,000 a season, I believe. If I'm wrong, let me know. And so there's a lot of people that say Pete should have already gotten the Hall of Fame or he should get in now. Apparently, President Donald Trump is going to pardon him probably in the next few weeks or the next few months would be my guess. So we told you about Shoeless Joe Jackson. So we're pulling up a lot of info here. We want to stay under 30 minutes, though, but give us your opinion on the Rose situation. It's well documented. Shoeless Joe Jackson. Now, Pete Rose died in 2024, late in 2024. Shoeless Joe Jackson passed away in December 5th of 1951. And by many accounts, one of the greatest, who was ultimately banned from the game because of his involvement in the 1919 Black Sox scandal. We're looking at a few extra bucks. The owner apparently wasn't paying him very good, but that wasn't the way to go about it. Definitely huge against the rules. Pete Rose broke some rules too. But is it time for Pete Rose to go into the Hall of Fame? Pete Rose, 4,256 hits, the baseball hit king. Let me know in the comments. Please let me know in the comments. I'll take Pete Rose off the screen, but that's what's going on as far as Pete Rose goes. Jacksonville Jaguars have a new general manager, 34-year-old, and I probably should quit saying his age because age is just a number, right? James Gladstone. James Gladstone is the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Liam Cohen, the new head coach. Tony Baselli, the executive vice president of football operations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to all work in unison, in concert, work together. They'll be drafting. They're at the combine right now. Tony Baselli, I believe, is at the combine. So is it, obviously, the head coach, Liam Cohen, and the new general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, James Gladstone. Man, the Jags need offensive line help. Somebody on social media said, "Oh yeah, they've got these guys re-signed and they're dedicated to the current offensive line." My goodness, that's hogwash. Doug Marrone said the Jags had a good offensive line. I think Doug Peterson said the same thing, and it never really came to fruition. Then I had a guy the other day. I read something that they said Brandon Sheriff might have been the weak link on the line, and he's probably the highest paid free agent that they had signed, right? They got to draft an offensive tackle. They need a guard. I think those should be the first two picks for the Jaguars, round 1, round 2. They got 10 picks. They need to get a defensive lineman. After that, a cornerback. The flashy players, there's 10 picks that Jacksonville Jaguars have. They can get flashy players later in the draft. The way GM James Gladstone is talking is the Jaguars have better players than their 4-13 record that they finished with. And Liam Cohen, the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe is starting at square one with Trevor Lawrence. And you got to remember the Jaguars defense. Now they've got the new guy, Anthony Campanelli, the defensive coordinator. This will be like the third defensive coordinator the Jaguars defense has had in 3 years. It's not always a coordinator. It's time for this defense to step up. It's time for Trayvon Walker to reach his full potential and create more havoc and do more, tackle more, play inside. Maybe they'll push him inside and he'll play more inside. Eric Armstead wants to move inside more also. Josh Hines-Allen, his sacks went down from 17.5 down to 8.5, and he didn't play in the last game. So I'm not trying to get on the case of this defense, but this defense has a lot of potential. And I think drafting another defensive tackle, although they drafted a defensive tackle last year in the second round, the guy out of LSU, Brian Thomas Jr., at wide receiver was a home run. You got your your potential number one wide receiver on the roster now. I was talking with John Gaylor, Christian Kirk. John mentioned to me, hey, Christian Kirk, what do you think about him probably getting traded? Well, if you trade Christian Kirk, you're going to get something for him, a draft pick or what have you, and that's probably what would happen. The Jags already have 10 draft picks, but Christian Kirk, due to salary constraints, will probably not be part of this team, although the Jags got a lot of cap room. Christian Kirk's been hurt the last 2 years. You can sign another free agent wide receiver or draft a wide receiver, and also Parker Washington. Moving into his third year, I believe, the guy out of Penn State. I believe Parker Washington. I've seen him make 2 or 3 really good catches the last couple of years. He's moving into his third year. I think that guy, if he can have a really good training camp, I believe Parker Washington has a lot of potential. Maybe he could become the number 2 wide receiver in the same lineup with Brian Thomas Jr. I believe the Jags will draft another wide receiver, but it'll be later in the draft. I'll be talking about, I don't know, another 5th or 6th round pick. I mean, Parker Washington was late in the draft too. Evan Ingram is a guy that healthy unless he gets traded, he'll be back with the Jaguars. I'm pretty sure he's under contract. It's going to be an interesting year. It really is. Super Bowl. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. You know, we're supposed to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And what happened to the Chiefs in that game, right? I mean, you're talking about the Super Bowl in early February, right? 2025, Super Bowl number 59. And again, the Eagles won it 40-22. Key stat in the game had to be the 6 sacks that the Philly defense. You know, basically they put the pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They got 6 sacks. Mahomes finally started playing a little better in the fourth quarter, but it was too late. The game was not in doubt at that point. The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl 40-22. First downs. First downs, passing first downs, the Eagles 21, Kansas City 12. Running first downs, Kansas City 11, Philadelphia Eagles 11. Okay. Well, total first downs. I'm sorry. Let me back up here. Eagles 21 first downs, Kansas City Chiefs 12. That's a big stat there. Passing first downs 11 and 11. But the Eagles got wow. First downs from penalties. Did the Eagles get 7 first downs from penalties? Wow. No. First downs from penalties. Eagles got 3, Kansas City, nothing. Okay. That's right. The Eagles did get 3 first downs from penalties. Rushing first downs. Let's go back over this again. Rushing first downs. Eagles with 7 first downs. Kansas City with 1. So this is another huge stat. First downs in the Super Bowl. Eagles 21, Kansas City 12. And again, JC, our executive producer, he's a big guy, or a big proponent of Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. I am too. I wish the Jaguars would have drafted the guy that I nicknamed the Truck. I nicknamed him the Truck before he was drafted by the Eagles. He was out of Alabama. So the big stats are the Eagles defense got 6 sacks. There were also more rushes and hurries on Patrick Mahomes. He was having to get rid of the ball early. First downs was another stat that was a huge key. The Eagles 21, Kansas City Chiefs 12 first downs. And when you talk about a guy like Landon Dickerson and the Eagles offensive line, they got 7 first downs rushing the football. Let me make sure I got this right. Yes, sir. The Eagles got 7 first downs rushing the football. Kansas City with 1. Passing first downs. Okay, it was with the passing first downs, it was 11-11, but first downs total, the Eagles 21 first downs, Kansas City Chiefs 12. So we're dissecting more stats here. The Eagles offensive line played well. The Eagles defensive line played well. When the defensive line played so good, it made the back end, the defensive backs for the Philadelphia Eagles even better. And the Eagles won the game 40-22 over the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Philadelphia Eagles, who I'm not a big fan of. Neither is our executive producer. He's a Buffalo Bills fan first and foremost, and probably a Jags fan second. So that's kind of what happened. We'll take a look at North Florida Entertainment. Jaguars, man, got to draft some offensive line help. Offensive tackle, then an O guard, then probably a defensive tackle and a cornerback. You got 10 draft picks, but you got offensive line early and off at least twice early in the draft. Take a look at some concerts. I heard the Strawberry Festival over in Clay County was pretty good, but they didn't have enough help. They charged $7 for tickets, but they just didn't have enough help to help with the crowds. So that's something they got to work on in the future. Man, I love strawberries. Maybe you do too. I didn't go to the Strawberry Festival in Clay County, but it was going on. Then the Clay County Fair comes up, JC. I know you've talked that in your comments. That's coming up April 3rd through April the 13th. There'll be some musical groups there. I don't want to delve into the musical groups at the Clay County Fair right now, but we'll talk about some concerts coming to North Florida in the Neighbors 2 section at bigjreport.com. Here we go. Guitarist Robin Trower's already been at the Florida Theater back on February the 25th. Gladys Knight live at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida on Saturday. That's coming up on Saturday, March the 8th of 2025. Tickets on sale now while they last. Also, the group Foreigner. Foreigner will be coming to the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Sunday, March 16th of 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. Reportedly, tickets for Foreigner have been selling very well for this one with Foreigner in North Florida. This will be the Foreigner show. Foreigner at the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Sunday, March 16th of 2025. Again, reportedly, tickets for Foreigner have been selling very, very well over the last few weeks. In another show in North Florida, the Little River Band will be in concert on Thursday night, March 27th of 2025 at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida. Also, the mega group Chicago. Man, they've been performing for decades now. Chicago will perform at the St. Augustine, Florida Amphitheater on Sunday, April the 13th of 2025 at 7:30 p.m. The Gene Simmons Band. That's right, not Kiss, but the Gene Simmons Band performing at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida on April the 29th of 2025. Tickets now on sale while they last at the Florida Theater box office. Also, Rick Springfield. JC, your guy, man. Rick Springfield coming to St. Augustine, to the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Tickets for Rick Springfield. I Want My 80s Tour featuring John Waite. What was John Waite's biggest solo tune? Maybe Missing You was the name of the song. Wang Chung, Dance Hall Days, they'll be there. And John Cafferty, I don't see a mention of the Beaver Brown Band, but John Cafferty will be there along with Rick Springfield, John Waite, Wang Chung, and John Cafferty on May the 29th of 2025 at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Tickets are on sale now. So that's some concerts coming up. Jacksonville Icemen keep winning. Are we under 30 minutes? We're still under 30 minutes. And by the way, JC, the Icemen keep winning. That's right. Let's take a look real quick at Icemen. Weather is good. High today, 64. Kind of cool. High today, 64. Looks like it'll low tonight around 44. Clear skies in Jacksonville. And let's take a look at some stuff I got on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. Also, follow us on Twitter. Please do that. We'd be happy. Scott Mullis at Big J Report Scott. We got a few hundred followers on Twitter. Jacksonville Icemen report. The Jacksonville Icemen playing at home with a 4-0 win on the ice over the Greenville Swamp Rabbits on Saturday, March the 1st of 2025. The Jacksonville Icemen now 33-16-5 and having a great season in the East Coast Hockey League in the 2024-25 season. Florida Gator basketball, man, the Gators keep winning. Everything else is gravy. From this point on, man, the Gators, let me pull up some stuff on the Florida Gators basketball team. Coffee is brewing at world headquarters now. We're working on this podcast this Sunday morning, March 2nd of 2025 now. The Icemen beat the Greenville Swamp Rabbits on Saturday, March the 1st of 2025. 4-0. Big Icemen win. Again, they're now 33-16-5 and having a great season in the Southern Division of the East Coast Hockey League. Florida Gators basketball team, man, they keep winning. They beat Texas A&M, and that was Saturday night, March the 1st. Florida Gators 89, Texas A&M Aggies 70. So that's some of what's going on here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 8. I used to love to play 8-ball in the billiard hall occasionally. I'm not the greatest pool player, but I have played pool occasionally. And number 8 for me was Don Gaffney, former Florida Gator football quarterback when did Don play? Back in the mid-70s. And then he played for the Jacksonville Firebirds and won an AFA championship in his hometown for the Jacksonville Firebirds back in the AFA Football League in the very early 80s. He played for the Florida Gators football team as number 8 and the quarterback for the Florida Gators back in the mid to the late 1970s. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, and they're on the scroll: Salsa Realty and Capital, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com, Wednesday night internet radio request show. And JC does his show. He does his thing live from the pub on Thursday evenings, starting at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time at LakeUpAllHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. Keep those cards and letters coming, JC. And thank you for being our executive producer on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This has been show number 8. We got more content coming soon. Please give us a like. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and give us your opinion on Pete Rose. Will he get in the Hall of Fame? It's been a topic for years, right? You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching and listening.